Hey there, my name is Chris, and for the hackathon, I put together an app called FundPoint. Now, some of you might be familiar with the process of doing balance verifications. Typically, this could be encountered when applying for a mortgage, but the problem with this is that it often requires going back and forth several times. You might need to print out and share fairly private bank statements showing more details than what might be needed to the requester in order to validate that you're an authenticated borrower or signer. So for the hackathon, I wanted to see if I could use Lisk to mediate proof of fund requests between two parties in a very controlled way without necessarily requiring going back and forth via email and showing that the person can authenticate with an address that has a certain balance without signing up for any sort of third-party account. Now, the way this works is you connect with your MetaMask account, and by default, it's going to connect to Sepolia. Each balance request has some basic information. I'm just going to go ahead and set some demo data here, but you can specify a recipient that you want to say, hey, I want to make sure that John has a certain amount of native currency in a wallet that he has under his control and can attest that the balance is his. So you can also attach any sort of peripheral information. So in this case, I have a proof of funds document, much like one used in banking, but this could also be used for any sort of other loan or validation if you want to check that a buyer is serious. I'm just going to go ahead and attach that, and you go ahead and click Create Request. What happens behind the scenes is two things. First of all, a smart contract gets deployed to the Lisk network that represents this request, and a unique URL gets generated that can be shared with the validator. And secondly, any document gets uploaded to IPFS that will ultimately be shared with the recipient. And there's a couple links here. So first of all is the contract that represents the request. And then secondly is the URL that can be shared with the recipient. And so only the authenticated address can view the contract. If you view it with an unauthenticated address, you're going to get an error. But if you are the intended recipient, you can sign it, you can view the original attachment. But if this looks good, you can go ahead and verify the request as the recipient. And if I don't have that balance, I'm going to get an error, but in this case I do. I'm going to confirm, click OK. And if I refresh the page, you can see that the request has been validated and there is a second transaction on the contract, as well as an event that gets emitted that represents the verification has been completed. So what's interesting about this is that every request gets its own smart contract. It's not commingled with other proofs or other requests. There's some additional information on my GitHub. You can also try it out at this URL here, but I encourage you to check it out. But that's pretty much the FundPoint project, and thanks for your time.